Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Right Way Wednesday. Today I'm here with Elisa Bovee, and you can see her on the screen there, an esteemed member of our clinical strategies team. Elisa, we've been using ICD-10 for quite a few years now, right? And while we've gotten better, we still have some room to go. We get a lot of questions about diagnostic choice. What should I use? How specific do I need to get? What if somebody's using something that I don't think is necessarily appropriate? And we get that from both clinicians and our customers, our NDS nurses, and other parts of the team. And we know how important ICD-10 coding is now for Part B and in general, right, at all. But it's going to become even more important with PDPM and when that goes into effect in October. And so we really kind of want to keep talking about ICD-10, everybody's favorite subject. We know it is, but we do want to kind of keep diving into it to make sure that we are coding in the most appropriate way. So Lisa, let's talk about Medicare Part A first. I wanted to get your thoughts about how our primary diagnosis choice, both medical and treatment, really impact not only the plan of care, but potentially reimbursement of the skilled services we're providing. Why is it so important to get that right?
It's such a good question, and you're right, it's a very heavy topic because not only are the therapists feeling as though they're under pressure to choose an appropriate diagnosis, but the rehab director is also monitoring that. And our facilities as well are watching clearly what we're doing. So I think it is important to truly think about why the patient went to the hospital and why they're then subsequently coming into our facility, and looking at what is our intervention going to be targeting. So they could have gone to the hospital with, say, change in mental status. But is that really the underlying? Is that the final diagnosis? And so I think it's very advantageous to have discussions with not only maybe the MDS coordinator in the building or one of the nurses on the unit. Doing a medical record review is, of course, very helpful, and we do that for our evaluation. But conversation is really extremely important between professionals, and the collaboration piece I think will really be helpful for us as clinicians, as well as show our customers, that we're supporting them, the facilities, that they feel as though we're not just putting things on an evaluation and sort of moving on. It's intricate and it can be challenging. And I know that as we move forward into a change in our Medicare Part A reimbursement system, that we are going to need to have many more conversations very soon after the patient is admitted, sometimes even prior to admission, to make sure that we have a diagnosis that really is, CMS is going to call it mapping, or Medicare will call it mapping, to the rationale for why they're coming to skilled nursing and why PT, OT, and speech will be involved with that resident.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about that, because you mentioned the importance of collaboration and discussion. One of the things we hear a lot from rehab directors, both therapists and assistant rehab directors, is I have trouble talking to clinicians of other disciplines, or if I'm an assistant, I have trouble talking to my therapist about diagnostic choice because I can't tell them what to use, right? So what do I do? So how can our clinicians, our rehab directors, feel empowered to have these discussions with both our teams or their teams and the customer team, the facility?
Right, exactly. It can be nerve-wracking if, you had said you're a speech pathologist, I'm an occupational therapist. So if I'm speaking to speech pathologists and as a rehab director and guiding, that's my role. That's how I see that, is that a therapist who is very busy, has a very a large caseload, they're up on the floors, they're really trying to be efficient and get everything completed in a day. So the ICD-10 may not be on their highest priority list because, of course, right, patient first. But as a rehab director, that's really who should be guiding the process and who should be looking into, are we identifying codes that could trigger, spur an audit, are we identifying codes that are representative, whether it's Part A or Part B of our service? So again, feeling as a director to open up a conversation, right? We have a guiding question document, which I think really has a lot of good information. Plus, being more familiar with the tabular index and feeling as though, we have resources, but there also is industry resources besides, your own company of what they have to offer. So having the ability to go in and utilize that, I've actually downloaded it to an iPad before, and it's so easy to find the tab that you need, but you do have to understand how to utilize that tool. And then again, making sure that you're staying in touch with other disciplines, not just OT/PT speech, but utilizing nursing and the facility to assist in some of those conversations. Because as I said, people really have a very heavy agenda. There's a lot to get through. So knowing what your tools are, utilizing those in a conversation, but then also maybe incorporating that a person who might be a different discipline into a multidisciplinary meeting, especially potentially with a physician, so that it really, comes more to light and it's not as though coming across as argumentative or punitive, but really as our team coming together to try to make the best choice. Because that claim, then gets submitted with those codes into state and national databases. So we really want to have quality information, that we're submitting.
Right. And it's not about telling them which codes to use, right? We would never do that. It's about guiding them, helping them to understand the parameters, the specificity that's required, the link between the medical and treatment diagnoses. And if you don't have a good understanding of all of those tools that Elisa mentioned, that's going to be a problem. So that, I think, for me, that's the first place I go to, is you have to understand how coding works, at least in a broad sense, because it is complicated. So you may not be the best coder, but you at least know how to get to it. And that tabular is not just for medical diagnoses, it's for treatment diagnoses as well. And we should be using it and know how to use it. So, all right, that's great. Thank you so much, Elisa. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we can have you back to talk a little bit more, because we still have a lot of more frequently asked questions. We do have resources, like she said. If you are a Health Pro Heritage clinician, you know that you can get to those on Box, on CE360, and then on your iPads as well. We actually do have, on our iPads, we have the ICD-10 tabular and alphabetical manuals, as well as instructions for those, and all of our other resources. You can always reach out to your clinical strategy team lead, or your QAC lead, or your RVP, or your rehab director if you are a clinician, and ask for help, ask for some guidance and help walking through those manuals and tools. If you are not, we encourage you, if you're not a Health Pro Heritage clinician, we encourage you to reach out to your key team members for some additional information, so that you can empower yourself and really learn how to code like a pro. Thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Nicole.